Let's break something from the start. You are not truly loved. You are tolerated. Does it hurt to hear it? It should, because society has trained you to desperately seek the approval of others, without warning you that that very approval is the cruelest trap. Your whole life, you've been told to be kind, pleasant, to earn the affection of others. But no one told you the darkest truth. Kindness is an open door to betrayal. When you try to please, you become vulnerable. Every smile, every excessively kind gesture exposes you, and silently, everyone around you measures your weakness, calculating how far they can push before you break. Because deep down, even if you deny it, you know that love is fragile, changeable, subject to whims and fleeting emotions. But fear is different. Fear is not fleeting. It does not depend on moods or momentary sympathies. Fear is engraved in memory like a scar that never disappears. And I'm not talking about the fear that humiliates or generates hate. No, that fear is useless, self-destructive. I'm talking about fearful respect, the kind of respect that prevents others from challenging you because they know crossing that line will cost them dearly. Here is the uncomfortable truth no one wants to admit. In the exercise of power, it is safer to be feared than loved. History is full of leaders who wanted to be loved by everyone and ended up destroyed by those who swore eternal loyalty. Excessive kindness is seen by many as weakness, and in this world, weakness will always be exploited. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. Power has two fundamental pillars: laws, which set limits, and force, which ensures those limits are respected. Laws without force are illusions that no one takes seriously. Force without laws is barbarism that awakens hatred. The intelligent leader understands how to balance both, maintains order with authority, but knows how to avoid falling into unnecessary brutality. Case study evidence. Think about the Roman Empire. Its vast territory relied not only on the Roman Codex laws, but also on its invincible legions force. The law defined the boundaries, and the legions ensured no one dared to cross them. Law gave force legitimacy, and force gave law its teeth. You may think this perspective is cynical, even cruel. But look around you. How many times have you seen someone too good get trampled by those they helped? How many times have you seen indulgence turned into permission for betrayal? And yet, you still naively believe that being loved is enough, that kindness will protect you from betrayal. It won't. The only real defense is respected authority, a measured fear that does not cross into hatred, but keeps others' destructive ambitions at bay. True power is not popularity. It is not being loved by everyone. True power lies in being respected, and yes, at times, feared. Because the respect born from fear lasts longer than the fragile, fleeting admiration that love offers. True wisdom lies in understanding that authority should never be absolute, but strategic. If you always show strength, people get used to it and stop respecting you. But if you are firm only at the right moments, your firmness becomes legendary. Unpredictability is your most faithful ally because no one respects a predictable leader. Power is not about consistency, but about surprise. Think about it for a second. Who commands more respect? The one who always punishes, or the one who surprises with an unexpected reaction right when everyone thinks they will tolerate a mistake? That's where the real art of Machiavellian leadership lies. It's not about shouting all the time to be heard. It's about speaking little and clearly, so your words are never ignored, and the biggest mistake a leader can make is trying to please everyone. Whoever becomes obsessed with others' approval inevitably loses control over themselves. When you try to please everyone, in the end, you please no one, and you end up betraying your own essence. The authentic leader understands that governing means making uncomfortable decisions that not everyone will applaud, but that in silence they will recognize as necessary. Now, I'm going to touch on a sensitive point. You probably don't want to face the loneliness of power. Do you know why great leaders are often alone? Because real power always implies loneliness. The higher you rise, the fewer people can understand your decisions. The fewer people can accompany you without resentment. That is the cruel paradox of power. The stronger you become, the fewer people you will have sincerely by your side. But accepting this loneliness frees you from emotional dependence, and only then can you make objective decisions free from the weight of others' emotions. Case study evidence. A master-level example is US President Abraham Lincoln and his team of rivals. He appointed all of his main political rivals to his cabinet. He wasn't naive about their loyalty. On the contrary, he deeply understood the envy and betrayal in human nature. By placing these most dangerous rivals close to him, he could both utilize their exceptional talents for the country and keep their ambitions under his direct supervision. This is a masterclass in power balancing, a wisdom that anticipates and manages betrayal. A clever leader does not allow others to fully know their intentions. They keep a certain distance, create a calculated uncertainty. Mystery is a powerful shield. If you reveal too much of yourself, you become vulnerable. People cannot harm what they don't fully know. Always keep something of yourself a secret. Make it so no one can fully anticipate your next move. That uncertainty will keep everyone alert and you protected. However, here's what few understand about real power. It's not about accumulating force, but about intelligently managing others' weaknesses. Identify what truly moves those around you, and you will have an unrelenting tool to guide their decisions. Do you know the secret behind those who always seem to get what they want? They understand perfectly what each person fears, what each individual desires, and how to use those emotions to guide their behavior. While others struggle vainly to gain approval, the clever leader focuses on understanding deeply what drives others. Machiavelli did not write his ideas to create tyrants, but to reveal a reality that few dare to face. Human beings rarely act from pure goodness. Most of the time, they act from self-interest. Whoever understands this stops living in illusions and begins to govern from a position of advantage. The deep psychology of Machiavellian leadership is the understanding of human fragility. It's not cynicism, it's pure pragmatism. It's observing human nature without filters, accepting it and adapting strategically. Think for a second, would you rather people see you as good or as strong? The automatic answer society gives is good. But what really happens when someone perceives weakness in you? They take advantage of it without exception. True strength lies in showing a controlled kindness, carefully managed and delivered only when it is useful. Because if you give generosity without measure, you will soon find that people start demanding instead of being grateful. But let's go even deeper and listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because it's something few admit. Power at its core is nothing more than a shared illusion. It's an implicit agreement between you and others. You have authority because others believe you do, because they have mutually convinced themselves it should be so. Force and laws, although necessary, are only tools to reinforce that collective belief. What happens when someone stops believing in your authority? What happens when the tacit agreement about who truly commands disappears? Exactly, your power evaporates. That's why the greatest skill of a leader is to keep that agreement alive, that invisible contract, to manage it, renew it, and even challenge it every now and then. Just to remind everyone who's steering the ship, this is precisely what differentiates a real leader from a mere tyrant. The tyrant believes they have absolute power, but by believing it, they lose all touch with reality and ultimately self-destruct. The leader, on the other hand, fully understands the fragility of power, knows it is always on the verge of breaking, always about to evaporate. That balance, that constant tension is precisely their greatest strength. So let me ask you the last question, the most uncomfortable, but perhaps the most important. Do you really want power, or is what you really seek the illusory security it promises? Because if you're looking for absolute peace, you've entered the wrong game. Authentic leadership is dangerous, unsettling, never completely safe. But there lies its beauty. In that abyss, in that controlled uncertainty, is where the great figures who change history emerge. And if you choose this path, there are more subtle tools you must master. First, strategic silence. Do you know why silence is so powerful? Because silence forces the other to fill those uncomfortable gaps with their own insecurities. When you remain silent, you put the other in the position of interpreting your thoughts, generating a slight but powerful anxiety. Suddenly, without uttering a single word, you have everyone hanging on your next reaction. Second, praise administered with surgical precision. Yes, praise, but never overpraise, never give free praise. Because when you do it too often, it loses all its value. Instead, if you administer it sparingly, it will be remembered with dazzling clarity. Precise praise at the right moment generates loyalty stronger than 1,000 threats. Finally, the intelligent management of your rivals. Don't fall into the easy temptation of quickly eliminating anyone who opposes you openly. Let them exist for a reasonable time. Why? Because that rival, without knowing it, is working for you. They are constantly reminding everyone how dangerous it can be to face you directly. Their failure, when it finally happens, will be the public confirmation of your power. Their fall will be your silent victory. But here's the last truth, the deepest and yet most disturbing. Although power is enjoyed, it is never truly possessed completely. It's an endless game where, if you let your guard down even for a moment, someone else will take your place. You know it well, you feel it, even if you've never openly acknowledged it. That feeling of always being alert, that constant vigilance, never disappears completely. And this, far from being a disadvantage, is exactly what keeps you alive. The price of power is eternal vigilance. If you've come this far, it's because within you burns the flame of leadership. Now, listen carefully, because this is key. Greatness does not lie in always being right, but in knowing how to move strategically even when you lose. Now it's up to you to choose your role, leader or follower, strategist or victim, architect of your destiny or slave to others' judgment. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel right now, because knowledge is power, and there is so much more to discover here. And if you understood the true meaning behind each word, I want you to write this exact phrase in the comments. True strength is invisible. See you in the next video.